I'm Keith Zorger with Whites of Mid-Atlantic.
And I'm Mike Brighty from Whites of the Great Lakes.
And I'm Randy Smith with Treasure Electronics. Welcome to the Treasure Shop. We're going to be covering the step-by-step operation of the Classic ID and the Classic IDX metal detectors. We're all three active metal detectorists ourselves, and we enjoy the opportunity to give you some helpful tips that will make you a more successful treasure hunter.
The Classic ID and the Classic IDX are very similar. The Classic ID has two controls. The first one is a full range discriminator, as well as a full range sensitivity control. We have a 8-zone target ID meter along with a toggle pinpoint trigger.
Both of these lightweight machines are packed with features. The Classic IDX adds some additional features with a black sand switch, which is preset ground balance, and a frequency shifter to allow you to use your machine in close conjunction with other metal detectors. One of the biggest differences with the Classic IDX is the addition of the 950 Blue Max coil, which will give you an additional 15% depth over the 8-inch coil found on the Classic ID.
Both detectors run on the same battery system. It's an excellent setup. It's a little 8-cell AA holder that you pull and slide open the lid here, and it holds 8 AA batteries. This is going to give you 65 hours of battery life on both of these units. Another nice feature of the Classic ID and IDX detectors is the interchangeable search coil configuration. Each search coil has a connection here that plugs into the control box, and there's a wide variety of search coils that can be put on these detectors, each having their own benefit. These are all accessory coils, and I think you'll find that overall the loop that's packaged with the detector will be a good place to start. And then later on, if you find the need, you can buy accessory search coils.
Now let's show you how easy it is to set up both of these machines so we can get you out hunting right away. The instruction manual that came with your Classic ID series metal detector is very complete and easy to read. However, we know that you want to get out and use your new machine as quickly as possible, and they're designed for you to do just that. Mike is going to show us the initial settings on the Classic ID, and Randy's going to show us the initial settings on the Classic IDX.
The first control on the Classic ID is the on-off sensitivity control. As you click the control on and turn it clockwise, you will begin to increase your performance and depth capabilities. You will notice that on all controls on White's metal detectors there is a triangular P, or what we call a preset position, that is used for average and startup conditions. Most of the time you would run that control on the P. However, to increase depth capabilities and performance, you may be able to increase this control slightly clockwise to improve that. The second control is the discriminator. The discriminator control has preset positions as well, but it has two. The first control is the ring range, which is the preset position to pick up all of your U.S. coins, your gold jewelry, and silver jewelry as well. If you run the control in the coin range, you will eliminate your pull tabs, your U.S. nickels, and many of your gold rings. So depending on the amount of trash that you wanted to dig up, you would set the control at either the coin range or at the ring range. The discriminator control and the discriminator circuit is a slight motion control, which when sweeping the search coil on the ground requires some slight motion or movement to react to the target. Once a target is responded to, you want to take and squeeze the toggle or trigger switch underneath the meter pod. By squeezing and holding that trigger in, it changes the metal detector circuit to an all metal, where it will pick up all metals and allow you to pinpoint or zero in on the target much more effectively. The toggle also locks forward. When locking the toggle forward, it stays in an all metal position when you want to pick up all metals. Otherwise, run it in the middle or neutral position while searching in the discriminant mode.
Now I'll explain the two additional features found on the classic IDX. Let's start with the black sand toggle switch. In most areas, the normal position will be ideal. However, if you get to a mineralized situation, such as a saltwater beach, mountainous areas, or desert terrain, you may improve the performance of the detector by switching it to the black sand position. Feel free to experiment with this feature and see which works best in your ground. The frequency adjuster is designed to eliminate electrical interference from other metal detectors. This can be achieved by turning the control clockwise until the chatter that you would be hearing dissipates. This can occur when you're hunting next to another metal detector in a tight situation such as a small yard or a large hunt with a lot of metal detectors in one area. You also may get some results in eliminating other electrical noises such as electrical wires, motors, and things like this that might be in the vicinity. You'll want to experiment with that and see if that can be reduced as well. Remember, if no electrical interference is present, the preset position will be the ideal setting. We're going to discuss all of these controls more in depth later on in the video. But right now, let's go outside and do some actual metal detecting. Now let's talk about the actual basic operation of the metal detector. We're going to hunt this yard here and see what we can find. First thing we want to do is turn the sensitivity control on and set it on the preset position marked by the P with a triangle around it. Then we're going to set our discriminator on the ring range. We don't anticipate having a lot of junk in this yard, but we do think there possibly could be a gold ring. So we're going to set the discriminator in the ring range. Now, if it was an old farmhouse or something, or maybe a park or where a lot of picnics were, and we anticipated a lot of pull tabs and tinfoil, we would have set our discriminator on the coin range. Well, let's set it on the ring range for this particular setting. First thing we're going to do is one of the primary foremost things is to demonstrate the loop speed. The speed in which you actually move the loop across the ground. Mike, would you like to demonstrate the proper loop speed? Nice and smooth. He's keeping the loop down on the ground, just barely brushing the top of the grass. And you notice he's overlapping each swing. He's not missing any ground in between each swing. Mike likes to think of it as your loop as a paintbrush. When you're painting, you're overlapping so that you don't miss in between. This is very, very important. So he has a fairly brisk pace, and he's overlapping each swing, and he's taking small steps forward as he goes. Mike, you want to show him what too slow a sweep speed would be?
Sure, Randy.
Now he's actually moving so slow that not only is he going to lose depth, but his discriminator is not going to work as good when he's moving that slow. Now show him what too fast of loop speed would be. Now he's going too fast, and he's also raising the loop up at the end of each sweep. So that at the end of the sweep, when he's got his loop up, he's not actually detecting that ground. You want to make sure and keep that loop on the ground the whole swing and not raise it up at the end. Very, very important. So remember, always keep the loop in motion, overlapping each swing, and moving it at a normal pace like that right there. That's a perfect example. Now we're going to talk about the most important thing that your metal detector does. That's the audio response, the beep you hear when you go across the target. I want to have Mike demonstrate for you what a good target sounds like. He's going to move the coil back and forth across the quarter. Now you'll notice that he's keeping the speed up, same speed that he was doing when he was searching. He's going back and forth at the same speed across the target. Now you'll notice that quarter is making a solid, consistent beep every time he crosses it. That's an indication that that's a good target there. Now let's go over and go across the nail, and I'll show you what a bad sound is. Now you'll notice it's making a choppy sound and an inconsistent sound. Sometimes it picks it up, sometimes it doesn't, and it's a cut short sound. that's an indication that that's a bad target. Remember to keep the loop moving at all times when you're checking a target. You might think that if the most important thing on your detector is the meter, and you don't want to get in a habit of looking at the meter while you're searching, because without a good target sound, the meter really means nothing. So just enjoy the scenery around you, listen, and don't look at the meter until you get a desirable sound. Now that we've determined that we have a target by the audio sound, let's look at the reaction that the meter has to the audio target. First, we're going to go across the quarter. We have the good solid audio tone, and notice that the meter is very consistent in saying that that is a quarter. So not only do we have a good tone, but a consistent meter reading. That is a probable good target. Now look at the reaction to a nickel. Same thing, solid tone and consistent reading on the meter. Now let's go across the nail. Notice we have the chirping sound and the meter is down in the iron setting. So that is a definite bad target. Now we'll go across the rusty bottle cap. Notice we have a choppy sound and the meter is flickering and jumping between targets. So we have an inconsistent meter. That's a definite indication of a probable bad target. So remember, the two things you want is a good, solid, consistent tone and a consistent meter reading. Once those two things are established, then it's time to go to the next step, which is pinpointing.
Now we're going to demonstrate pinpointing and target recovery using the classic IDX. Once you have a good solid signal and meter display, you might want to X the target. If you were going in an east-west direction, try a north-south direction. If you get a good solid beep and response on the target ID meter in each direction, it's probably a good target. I'm receiving a $half signal here, going very slowly over the target. It's quite repeatable, and I'm going to pull in the pinpointing switch. Remember that motion is required even when you're in the pinpointing switch pulled position. Notice the sound is louder, and I've been able to center the target right between where the open hole is in this 950 coil. Now what we want to do is set the machine aside and try to determine depth using that position that we've centered on. It's possible sometimes with a small probe like a dull screwdriver or the brass pointed probe to discover whether or not it's a surface target. If it is, you can just pop it up gently through the root system and not have to dig a hole. I've not been able to find anything here, so we're going to demonstrate how you would recover when you do have to dig a hole. You want to lay down a target recovery towel so that you can put the contents of the hole on it. Take a digger and dig a three-sided horseshoe plug, about 3 inches in diameter. Then you can reach through and pry that up. Digging in this manner leaves one side attached all of the time, and the root structure will not dry out and cause the grass to die. Having set the lid of this hole open, you want to pick your detector up and determine whether the target is still in the hole or in the lid. In this case, it is in the lid. You can start to take some of this dirt. Well, there's our target right there. Normally you would put the dirt on the hole, on the towel, and then put it back in later. Here we have a Barber $half. So the target identification on the classic IDX was right on the money. Now at this point we want to stash our recovery and then take whatever dirt we have, put it back into the hole, pull the lid back down, and when you get up you want to step on that location and you'll see that there's not going to be any remnants of you having dug a hole there at all, and the grass will not suffer from the event. You've seen how to properly recover a good target Not all of your targets, however, are going to be good. You will occasionally dig some trash items. You want to make sure when you dig a trash item that you put that in your pouch also and carry it out with you. That, coupled with the proper permission secured from the landowner, will ensure a very enjoyable day treasure hunting. Now we'd like to demonstrate the effect of the frequency shifter on the classic IDX. Hunting in the normal position, the preset position, notice that I'm getting this $half and don't have any interference. Randy's going to bring the classic ID machine a little closer. And notice what happens now as I approach his machine. I get false signals, and really the machine is not able to be used in that condition. So I want to turn my frequency shifter in a counterclockwise direction to the point where I can still hunt and not receive interference from Randy's classic ID. You don't want to turn the frequency shifter more than necessary, but that will help you to hunt in close proximity to a hunting partner.
Not only did the frequency shifter help Keith's detector, but it also helped my detector as well. Now, if neither detector would have a frequency shifter, the best thing to do is just move far away apart from each other, maybe 10 or 15 feet, and you should be able to detect okay. The White's Classic ID and IDX metal detectors are designed to be simple and easy and fun to use. Let's go over the controls one more time and just give you the proper settings and what the effect of the settings are on the detector. Mike, you want to start with the, well, let's just all talk about the sensitivity control.
Okay. We can start with the sensitivity control. It also turns on the instrument, and as you turn it clockwise, it increases how sensitive the metal detector is, and it'll make it go deeper into the ground. The preset position is at about 70%, which would cover most ground conditions. However, if you have a smooth and stable operation at the preset, you may want to increase it clockwise beyond that point. As long as it remains stable, you will improve your depth capabilities in the average ground conditions.
Most areas you're able to turn the classic ID machine up just about to full sensitivity. But if you notice that chattering from like we had outside, then you would want to turn it down a little bit till that smooths out.
You know, it's not always best to run it wide open, because if you can't distinguish between a good target and a false target, then that extra sensitivity is not going to do you any good. So just use the sensitivity as much as you can, but don't go too far or you're actually hurting yourself rather than helping yourself.
We like to make the analogy like the speed limit on our highways, that the preset's like driving at about 55. But there's highways that you can drive faster. The interstates go faster, so we're able to turn the sensitivity up even higher on this unit and gain some extra sensitivity, extra depth and detection. Corners you have to slow down in your car, so we have the range being able to turn down some if you're in an area with high interference or high mineralization.
I found that to be true, especially on East Coast saltwater beaches. When you're searching in the dry sand, it would be like hunting in your own backyard. However, at low tide, when the sand is saturated with salt water, you'll find that it will start to act erratic when you begin to get into that area. And by reducing your sensitivity to a point of just eliminating that erratic, staticky sound, that's where you're going to get your best performance.
One of the most used controls that you're going to have on your detector is going to be the discriminator. You're going to be constantly tuning the discriminator for the different areas that you go to. And every place you go is different, and you may want to run your discriminator in a different setting depending on how old the area is, how junky it is. Let's talk a little bit, let's show the people a little bit about the different targets and where they come in the discriminator and when they fall out of the discriminator.
Sure. One of the first things to remember is for the discriminator to function, the pinpointing trigger needs to be in the center position. If you have it locked forward or pulled close to you, then it's going to be in the all metal position and your discriminator is not going to function.
Right, you're going to pick up all metals
Right.
at that time.
And in
Right.
a certain situation, you may want that. Let's say if you're looking for a piece of iron, a survey pin, a rifle, or a cannonball or something like that, you could push the trigger forward, lock it in the forward position, and then you're in the all metal mode and you're going to detect all metals. But that's probably not practical if you're coin hunting or jewelry hunting or something like that, because you don't want to be bothered with iron objects. So let's set the control now on the ring range.
Okay, so
And,
first preset position that's on the instrument, as we mentioned earlier.
When you have the detector set in the ring range, we have a gold ring here. notice we get a good target response. We're not going to get a target response on an iron nail. So we've already accomplished the rejection of the iron targets. We're still going to get U.S. nickel. You're still going to get some pull tabs. And of course, all of the higher coins, the quarters and dimes and things like that, are still going to be in. As we turn the discriminator up to the coin range, we're going to discover that some of these items have dropped out. The gold ring that we were able to get in the ring range is now gone. So the higher you turn the discriminator in a clockwise fashion, the more trash you're going to reject. We've still got some pull tabs. Now they're out also. The idea of using the discrimination control is to not use more than you need. And in any given area, that can vary. It depends a lot on your targets.
What you might want to try too, Keith, is some of the other jewelry that we knocked out. We knocked out that gold ring there, but how about a silver ring? Will it pick up that silver jewelry now in the coin range?
Sure will.
So we won't lose the silver jewelry while we're hunting in the higher discrimination level.
Right.
Another thing we might mention is on gold jewelry. While we're rejecting most of it in the coin range, gold rings are not all the same, like pennies and dimes and quarters, where we're dealing with different carat ratings. We have 10 carat through 18 carat. The alloys range from nickel, which is a magnetic metal, up to copper and silver, which are highly conductive. So there's a range of conductivity for gold rings that could fall anywhere from just below where nickel would fall on up through a large pull tab. So if you're in an area where there isn't a lot of trash, or where there might have been activity where rings could have been lost, football fields, volleyball courts, you may want to run your discrimination down with the likelihood of a ring being found in that area, and not reject that just because there might be one or two random pull tabs.
Trial and error is the best way to learn your discriminator, and it takes practice. And we can't possibly show you all of the targets that you're going to come across when you're in the ground. There's just too many. There's thousands of different variations of pull tabs, and they all read a little bit different. So just, if I can give you one bit of advice, I don't want you to get lazy and turn your discriminator all the way up and only dig quarters and dimes and pennies, because there's a lot of wonderful things out there to find if you allow your detector to detect them. So, use the discrimination with discretion.
That's right. You'll find the half dimes, the old 20-cent pieces, jewelry. Another variation that we can talk about is the size. Is it a woman's engagement ring, very small, thin metal? Or is it a man's class ring with a lot of metal in it? They can, because of the size and the carat rating, they can fall at various areas on your discriminating schedule there. When you have that dial the whole way up, you're still going to get half dollars and quarters and things like that. So in a real high trash urban area, that might not be a bad way to go. But like Randy said, it's not a good idea to get lazy with that. When in doubt, dig the target.
To recap on the trigger, in the center position, that is when you're in the discrimination mode, and when you're in the center, then you use your discriminator control to set the amount of discrimination that you want. When you trip the trigger forward, you're in the all metal mode, you're going to detect all metal, and it's going to lock and stay in that position for hunting. If you want to pinpoint, you squeeze the trigger and hold it, and then you're in the pinpoint all metal mode, and that's really the same mode as locking the trigger forward. It's just that it's spring loaded then, and it releases when you let go of the trigger.
And keep in mind that motion is required for discrimination. Nice gentle motion works every time. If you go too slow, you might lose the target. If you stop over it, the target will go away. Motion is required.
One of the important things that you'll learn when pinpointing is that when you're in the all metal mode, you can kind of see the size of the target by how big the sound is. We got a smashed Pepsi can
Why
there.
don't we do that demo?
This is a big target.
Now that's making a good signal. It sounds good. The meter's saying that it's a coin, saying it's a quarter. So at this point, you kind of think you got a good target there because it sounds good and the meter's consistent. But watch what happens when we pinpoint the target. See how wide a signal we're getting? show them a penny versus that big wide signal. Show them what a penny will do. Much narrower. So that told us that a coin pinpoints a little narrower, whereas something large pinpoints wider. Go ahead.
Something that always helped with visualizing that for me was to understand how the metal detector signal penetrates the ground. It's an electromagnetic field that goes down in a slight U shape or V at the bottom. It's wide at the top and small at the bottom. As you detune the machine by using the pinpoint mode over it, you're going to be using the point of that. So the deeper targets are going to give you a more shallow kind of a sound, or rather a fainter sound.
Another thing as well, with a pop can or some large metal target that you cannot discriminate with the discriminator control, many times you can identify that before you even dig it out of the ground. First of all, it would be a strong audio response, as we just demonstrated. Another way would be, once you run over the target, you can simulate the depth by actually increasing the height of the loop above the target. If it stays strong and you're still 10 to 12 inches above, or it stays and doesn't fade away like a small target would be, it kind of identifies that it's a larger than a coin-sized target. And unless you're looking for large targets, relic hunting, it would be something that maybe you wouldn't want to try and dig up.
The frequency shifter, let's hit on that a little bit.
What we have here is we have a preset position for the frequency adjust. And probably in most conditions, like we talked about before, it would be better to leave it there right into the preset or in the factory setting. As we demonstrated just before we came here, that another metal detector close by would interfere and cause both instruments to act erratic. But when it was turned counterclockwise, both detectors would be able to detect and eliminate that. Another thing that we didn't touch on was also RF and 60 cycle interference, especially when searching in areas between the sidewalk and curb that are good areas to find coins and jewelry. However, many times there are high tension power lines overhead or in the ground. And on days when it's been real damp and muggy, it just makes it a lot harder for the metal detector to get maximum sensitivity without getting some type of response from that RF and 60 cycle. By changing your frequency, sometimes that will help you to eliminate reducing your sensitivity, so you can still maintain that maximum performance without sacrificing depth by changing and lowering your sensitivity control.
Well, the other control that the classic IDX has is the normal black sand switch. Want to talk about that a minute, Keith?
Well, we have two preset ground balances represented there with the normal and the black sand. Normal obviously is the preferred mode, and it's the one that you're going to be able to use in most areas of the country. Black sand indicates that it would be something you would use around a beach area, and that's in fact the truth. But a lot of the gold fields have black sand, and you would need to use it in that position. The Mid-Atlantic states, for example, the black sand seems to be the preferred even 100 miles inland from the ocean. We seem to be able to get a little bit more depth. But it's a simple flick of the trigger there, and the best thing to do is see what your own area is going to respond like, and how the machine is going to give you the best performance.
The operator should also be aware that when you do switch it into the black sand, it does shift your discrimination control slightly.
Just a wee bit.
So you may have a certain spot on your discriminator control where you know you just pick up a nickel, and by turning it to that you can find out if it really is a nickel or a pull tab. However, by changing that to a black sand, it's going to give you a much stronger response, and it's going to take more discrimination to eliminate that nickel. They should be aware of that too as well.
Black sand basically is just mineralization, natural pieces of iron that come from the earth, and this control here will help you to see through that mineralization and be able to still detect a target. So experiment with that and see how it works for you. That basically covers the controls of the Classic ID as well as the Classic IDX.
The controls on these machines are there so that you can have the best performance in your own area. It might be different in one side of the country than another. And experimentation is the best way to go.
Your local whites dealer has lots of accessories that will enhance your treasure hunting. Loops, let's talk about loops a minute.
Well, search coils come in a variety of sizes. The Classic ID, of course, came with the BlueMax 800, and the Classic IDX came with the BlueMax 950. And those are probably the best loops that you could have on those individual machines. However, if you want to do some sharpshooting or some very precise treasure hunting, where there might be a multitude of targets, some good, some bad, in a very small area, you would use a smaller coil. The principle to keep in mind is that the larger the coil, the deeper it's going to go because of that cone-shaped detection pattern that we have. So if you're using something like the BlueMax 350, you're going to have a very narrow detection pattern. You're going to be able to separate small targets extremely well. It would be used in an area maybe like underneath a grandstand or in that area between the sidewalk and the curb, where there might be a lot of targets and you want to separate each individual one, analyze it on its own merits. Slightly larger targets or coils would be used maybe around a park bench or something like that. The 6-inch coil is great for that, Mike.
Yeah, well, really, what's the difference? Which one's the best?
Well, it depends on what kind of thing you're going to be using. For example, a lot of people say if I can go deeper with a big coil, why don't I use a big coil all the time? But if you had targets that were 6 inches apart and you're trying to find them with the BlueMax 1500, the machine wouldn't be able to use this loop to separate accurately on those two targets. I'd use this more to locate the area that I wanted to hunt and then switch to a smaller one for individual target identification, like an open field.
So probably the best for maximum performance or maximum depth on coin-sized targets would probably be the BlueMax 800 or the DeepScan 950. But if we wanted to find relics or larger targets, maybe a little bit deeper, we would use the 1500 and nuggets and earrings and those type of things for the smaller coil.
Exactly.
So they all have their purpose, they all have their advantage and their disadvantage.
And you're able to modify the Classic ID and IDX and get specific functions by using the various coils.
And then another thing you'll want to do is offer your coil some protection by putting a skid plate or what we call a coil cover on there. We make the coil cover for most of the loops, not all of them, but most of them. And it offers, it's like a skid plate. It allows you to scrub the ground to get maximum depth. You know, keep in mind any amount you raise your coil up off the ground, that's that much depth you're actually losing. You're not going to be able to penetrate that deep. So keep your coil as close to the ground as you can, and that just offers you a little insurance that you're not going to wear the bottom of the coil out or something like that. There's coil covers for the 950, the 350, the 5.3, the 800, and the 950 as well. So that's a good thing to have.
And another thing to keep in mind, Randy, is that all of these are waterproof coils. So you can use the detector in shallow water.
That's right. And you don't have to take your coil cover off once you put it on there. Just leave it on there. And I mean, it doesn't hurt to take it off and clean it every once in a while, but there's really no reason to ever take your coil cover off. Just leave it on there.
And if you wanted to step up and upgrade and trade in your metal detector, it would be a good idea because it protects the value of the machine without wearing out the bottom of the loop. Once the cover is taken off, the loop is just like brand new.
Digging, lots of different kinds of digging tools. Of course, there's different kinds of digging. You've got sand, dirt. One of the nice things for sand is a scoop. This allows you to take a scoop full of sand, sift it out. The good target will stay in the scoop and the sand will filter through and makes real fast recovery in sand. These have 5/8 holes in it, so a dime would not go through, and of course anything larger than a dime wouldn't go through. So this makes it really quick recovery in sand.
What about this probe? The probes are ideal for shallow targets. Whenever you have a target or a coin that is within the root system and you don't want to damage the ground, it's a good idea to probe or poke the target itself and hit it and then just pry it out without having to cause any damage. But when you have an object that is below that root system, which is generally 2 to 3 inches, you may want to cut, like Keith demonstrated earlier in the video, using a trowel to be able to cut a 3-sided plug, open it up, and then get the target and put it back. And of course, once you do recover your target, whether it's a good target or a trash target, is always to take your trash and throw it away. There's many different type of recovery pouches available. This is just a simple one here. One side for your trash and the other side for your treasure, or your good targets. This way, once you're done hunting for the day, you can throw your trash away, so at least you're picking up and you won't be digging that target later.
Having the right tool for the right job is important in metal detecting as in anything else. And the right digger will help you get into the ground and recover the target quicker and do it in a nicer way so that you don't make an unsightly hole or something like that when you're done.
I tell you, one of the neatest little things that I've come to love is this Bullseye 120. Basically, this is a miniature metal detector. You'll find that once you get into digging, you can't always readily see your target. Something small, the same color as dirt, you may not be able to see it. But you turn the thing on, run this down around the hole, you got your target right there. I usually just dig my hole, you know, have the dirt setting on the side and on the digging towel, and then turn the detector on, stick it down, go around the edge of the hole, go down to the bottom of the hole. If it's nowhere in the hole, then you can go up there and detect the dirt pile. And once you get within about a half an inch to an inch of the target, it will let you know. This can also help you not to damage a really valuable target. Let's say you got a coin down there 4 inches, a nice coin that may be worth quite a bit of money. You dig down 3.5 inches, pull this thing out, you find the target before you take that extra dig and knock a scratch on the target. So this is a nice little tool right here. I really like this.
That's right, Randy. We've seen a lot of application for that in wet ground where the mud actually will hide the coin and you can't find it. Using the Bullseye will give you a lot better recovery method, and you can do it quicker. And let's face it, the faster we can get the target into our pouch, the better it's going to be. We're going to be able to dig more targets.
That's right. It's a real time saver. Books. Boy, we got lots of great books. There's how-to books. There's where-to books. All these books are written by people that are heavy into the metal detecting hobby. They know what they're talking about. I recognize this guy here on this book, don't you?
Looks like somebody I know.
Great books, and they can really speed up your learning curve on the great hobby of metal detecting. I see something that everybody needs, and that's headphones. That's probably the most popular accessory that there is in metal detecting, and there's a wide range of prices. But I can tell you that these headphones right here are terrific. The White's KW Pro headphones have 100 ohms of impedance, so you get a really sharp, clear sound from them. They actually have titanium drivers that are really, really nice headphones. Volume control. Headphones are important because if you're not tuned into the sound of the detector, you could easily miss something. Something really deep might make a faint signal, and if you're not hearing the detector well, you could miss that. So headphones really let you get in tune with the detector so that you don't miss those good targets.
They'll take out some of the background noise too. You'll have traffic or wind, waves, things like that, and they'll mask those fainter signals. And if you don't hear them, you won't dig them.
That's right.
Now, there's one thing that you try and look for when you're buying and purchasing headphones, and that's a list of 3 items. One is comfort, sound, and reliability. Lifetime warranty on all of the Koss headphones. And if you're going to have headphones on all day, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, you want something that's comfortable, and you want the good sound resolution, as Randy mentioned. So those 3 things together are important when selecting headphones.
Hot summertime, we have the lightweight headphones that let your ears breathe, and these are good year-round. Really, those are great. That's the headphones there. And another nice thing to have, if you do a lot of detecting, is a NiCad battery system. This will save you money in the long run. As you can see, you've got a sealed NiCad pack with a little place where you plug the charger in, just like that. Plug in the charger to the wall, 110 volts, and it will charge the battery. And you've got an overnight charge or a fast charge. If you want to charge it fast, it'll charge up in about 6 to 7 hours. But you'll actually get a little bit better charge if you'll let it charge overnight in the overnight position. And then you're good for probably 20, 30 hours of detecting with a NiCad battery.
And you don't have to worry about memory. NICAD
That's right.
memory. You can go out for 4 or 5 hours and bring it back in and top it off overnight. So that way you always know that you have a fully charged battery.
Right. Doesn't have to hurt to have an extra battery pack too, just to load some extra batteries in. You can make a quick change and on to the detecting. Carrying cases, that's a nice investment to keep your detector looking nice. There's various styles. This is called a carrying bag. You actually can keep the detector assembled and slip it down into the bag, and it offers you good protection. Take it out quickly and you're ready to start hunting right away. It's great for just from your home out to the hunt site and back to home again. And then if you want to get into some heavy duty traveling, a hard case. This offers the maximum protection. You can check it right on the airlines or put it in the overhead of the airplane, or if you're a motorhome or whatever, this will always keep your detector looking really nice and protected. Well, that's just some of the accessories that White's has. If you will get with your local authorized White's dealer, pick up a White's accessory catalog from him. I'm sure he'll be anxious to help you figure out which accessories are going to work best for the type of detecting that you're going to be doing. Now you're ready to be successful with these two great detectors, as many people already are.
And now you have all of the tools to become a successful treasure hunter.
All of us here at the White's Treasure Hunting family would like to welcome you to this wonderful and exciting hobby. Remember, the most important member of our family is the local dealer. He is, after all, the local expert.